Well, let's talk for a moment about the rise among Christian scholars and theologians. And we cannot talk about that without referring to BioLogos Foundation. Francis Collins, who was with the Genome Project, famous, well-respected researcher and scholar. He's established this BioLogos Foundation, and it's supported, endorsed by, perpetuated by some big names, heavy hitters, the big dogs in theology. N.T. Wright and Andy Crouch and Mark Knoll, Richard Mouw, Tim Keller. The A-list of theologians, they're supporting it. And I think the reason is that they have bought off on the science and assumed the science is legitimate. And if it is legitimate, then it obviously raises problems about Genesis 1 and 2. What do you do with Genesis? But instead of taking the science head on and seeing whether it's really valid, they've taken what in effect is bad science and forcibly shoehorned it into Genesis. And in the process, they've ended up actually having to kind of mythologize or theologize the first 11 chapters of Genesis, not just Genesis 1 and 2, but all the way through the flood. And they're saying this doesn't have any historical or factual content to it. Maybe it's metaphor, maybe it's historical narrative. Actually, they don't say it's historical narrative because they don't think it's history, but they think it's narrative of some kind. And we can theologize that into something apart from what it seems to be pretty obviously saying. The problem with that is that in the New Testament in particular, whether it be Paul's writings or even the own words of Jesus, you've got to do some theological gymnastics there that undercut all the way to the whole notion of inspiration. They're playing a very dangerous game here by taking bad science, forcing it into Genesis, and then making the rest of Scripture kowtow to that scenario. But that's where everybody is today. I initially was not going to even address that issue, but then I realized that you have a fatal flaw in evolution science itself, and then people are trying to throw God at the problem. But not even throwing God at the problem solves the problem. In fact, it creates even more problems. So at the end of the book, I've added a section dealing with what is now known, what used to be known as theistic evolution, but is now known as evolutionary creation. That's something that people in the church need to be really thinking about seriously.